Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well this evening. How are you doing, Sarah?
Doing all right. It's Thursday night, and
Yeah,
looking forward to Friday and Saturday and Sunday.
definitely. Yeah, I know I was telling you before we got started how it's week's been good overall, but but then I've been like fighting the urge to like add the Thursday afternoon like new stuff to the rundown. It's been one of those weeks where I think everybody's just trying to get all their stuff out before the holidays.
Yeah, and for some reason, I don't know what it is about this week, but I saw some stuff on Twitter. I saw some messages you sent me, and I'm still looking at the rundown being like, huh. Huh. Okay. Haven't watched
Yeah,
that. Okay. All right.
yeah.
Sure. This is what they call
Well,
news. I
yeah, it's
mean,
called news. Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, because when I started the rundown, you sent me the rundown list, and like you always do, Friday for the upcoming week, and so of course Saturday night we get the Spider-Verse trailer that dropped, for Spider-Verse 2, I guess part 1, back into
I
I
haven't.
can't remember. Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, that was just it. I mean, as I was putting together the rundown, even today, I was just like, well, let's see. Since then, we've had Spider-Verse, we've had Superman and Lois teaser. There was Cobra Kai trailer today. There was what else happened? Oh yeah,
I
yeah. I
haven't
mean,
watched any of
Matrix.
these, so
No, I
stop
have.
asking me.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. It's just been. This is my point. It's just been so much stuff. I haven't even had a chance to like. I think I finally got to the Matrix trailer yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I'm just
Yeah, and
watching those trailers.
yeah, and then of course there was like news that another Spider-Man No Way Home trailer was going to drop, and I was like, I think even tweeted like, nah, I'm good. I don't need anything
Yeah.
more. Yeah,
Unfortunately, YouTube keeps dropping them when I'm watching videos, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, fuck you.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
don't know. I saw you message me about the Spider-Verse, but here's me, Will. For whatever reason, the way you framed your message, it did not dawn on me that that was the sequel to Into the
oh yeah,
Spider-Verse. like and maybe it's because we haven't talked about the sequel
right,
in years,
yeah.
but it just did not. And I was like, oh, okay. And then you did also say something about spoilers, and I'm like, I am not watching that then. I
Yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
see anything.
It's an
But
amazing, yeah. It just reminded me, but it was one of those things because it dropped. Again, watching football, into Saturday night, and I got on Twitter and I was like, huh, Spider-Verse, and it was, and then I clicked on it and I was like, holy shit, it's like a new trailer, and and it's Miles doing it, Miles in his room, and then Spider Gwen shows up, and it's a banger, and then of course given that we are literally a week away from No Way Home, we get the OG multiverse, and as far as Spider-Man, and Miles gets pulled into the multiverse, but with Gwen, and they end up encountering Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. So it's like part 1, and it comes out in October of next year. So I'm just like, all right, I'm ready. Cannot wait, because and I both, we've talked about this ad nauseum, how much we love the original. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to.
Yep.
Apparently, it's not coming out until October, and by that
Yes.
time, you will have seen 3/4 of the movie because of the number of trailers they will
Yeah.
drop.
Exactly. So especially given that it's Sony, because they can't help themselves.
They cannot help themselves. And apparently, Kevin Feige is drinking that Kool-Aid too, as he confirmed that Daredevil and some other Netflix Marvel heroes are in the MCU and we'll be seeing them soon.
Yeah. Yeah, he did drop that little nugget earlier in the week, and of course, with Hawkeye, which I know we'll talk about later, and and of course potential kingpin there, and basically, Kevin was like, yeah, Charlie Cox will be our Daredevil. We don't know when he's coming or where he's coming or how he's coming, but he is your Daredevil. So I'm just like, okay. And then open the door to what about the other folks from the other Netflix Marvel shows, and I guess of the four other of Jessica, Luke Cage, and Finn, I would think probably maybe we'll see Jessica Jones again. Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, right now it's all about Daredevil.
Yeah.
Like he's the one who made the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one where we're noticing connections already to some of the stuff currently going on to the MCU. So he's the one people want to see.
Yeah.
And if the others follow, then that's cool. But I don't know. We're just spoiled right now.
Yeah, we are. I know Barenthal basically was like, he was kind of like, I don't know if my Punisher could show up in the MCU so I think he kind of put cold water on the Punisher showing up, at least his version, because he can't play. He's like, I can't do PG-13.
Well, I mean, Deadpool isn't going to do PG-13, so
yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. But it's funny how these shows how it's evolved, because whenever these Netflix shows first came out, they were like very consciously not a part of the MCU, and now everybody's like clamoring for it to be a part of the MCU. So it's just funny how things come full circle.
Right, but from what I understand, that has to do with some issues between Feige and some higher ups at Disney, and so there was a line drawn, and over the years, as some things became massively successful and other things not so much, that line has now been pushed back to be like, oh no, I get my hands in all playground.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah, we got that IP back, so we're gonna play with it now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking about things that cannot be PG-13, the boys have announced a spinoff at Brazil Comic Con called The Boys Diabolical, a new 8-episode animated anthology series.
Yes.
Sorry. Like, what we just watched Invincible.
Yeah.
And that was like rated R. And now the boys are going animated. So what, like, can the kids have anything? Jesus.
Apparently not. It's this, yeah.
Maybe it's cheaper to do animated. I don't know.
Maybe. I think that's part of it too. I think it is cheaper, and but apparently the writers for this anthology. I mean, they're bringing in like Awkwafina and Andy Samberg, and of course Seth Rogen's going to be writing one of the episodes. So Isha Tyler. So they are going to just continue to expand this universe, and I guess this is the second spinoff for the boys, because I know we have the Boys University show too. So yeah. I just
hope that they're not like bloating this universe. I mean, we got one good quality show.
Yeah.
So before you announce 5 prequels, let's slow the roll.
Yeah, and give us a date for season 3.
Yeah. Well, 2022. Yeah.
It's
going to be in the fall of 2022.
Yeah.
Probably August or September. That's usually when they drop.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Kripke said. I mean, I think obviously all the principal photography's been done, and now they're just working on special effects and stuff. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think you're right.
Yeah. Now I was not surprised by one bit of news that came out this week, because it's like, okay, all right. You got a director with a DC property who just we hear her name in one news week, and then we're going to hear it for about 6 months. The latest update on this whole Patty Jenkins things is that she has finally decided to take a step back as the director of what the film fans are all clamoring for, a remake of Cleopatra, to focus on Wonder Woman 3 and Rogue Squadron. So just when you thought we were done. Nope. She's like, oh yeah, last week didn't happen. And I'm actually still weighing my options here. And it's like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So actually the director of Cleopatra was going to be the one of the, I think the directors of the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. Kari Skogad is coming in to direct Cleopatra, and of course, I guess the creative differences was just basically it was just a red herring, just to like, I just need a minute to like just work all these things out before, so then I can say I'm back to Star Wars.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't believe it because too many times have we seen these back and forth play out, and in the end, like the director walks away. So I'll believe it when I see a trailer.
Yep. But
or Rogue Squadron. I believe she's all in with this Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah.
Even though, like, if I was Patty after the response Wonder Woman 2 had, I would walk away.
Well, I think she's trying to redeem. I think she's like trying to redeem the franchise because you know. I mean, yes, it was okay. I guess it did okay commercially, but yeah, But I think if folks being honest, I mean, it was a huge disappointment as far as, especially after, I know we did our it completely is. Completely
like, it doesn't matter if it made money or not. Like, it's a forgettable movie.
Yeah.
So,
and especially like how we did last year where we did a rewatch of it, you know, a couple weeks before and then saw that. I was just like, oh, yeah. I just remember that the only thing I can remember about that film is I just don't want to ever watch it again.
Yeah, especially because someone made me watch it twice within a 48-hour period.
Oh, gosh.
This is why we don't do those anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what if the movie's bad, Will?
Yeah. Fair point.
And then we also have Destin Daniel Cretton is returning to write and direct a sequel to Marvel's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and an additional series set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for Disney Plus.
Yeah, he got the Coogler deal.
I'm getting at a point where I'm tired. I'm tired of these prequels, these spin-off series and everything. I mean, we've managed to have some really great television shows come out of these properties, but that doesn't mean that a successful movie should automatically get their own universe TV show deal. Like, I mean, at least wait to see how Wakanda does, and then go from there. But like, you're jumping the gun real quickly.
Yeah, and even speaking of Wakanda, I mean, with Black Panther 2, I mean, you know, God rest his soul, you know, we had a tragic loss of Chadwick, but even beyond that now, with all the stuff going with Letitia Wright and her injuries on the set, and then back and forth about her vaccination status, and Mel's even, I don't know how serious this is or not, but I know according to Twitter today, you know, she's thinking about like backing off of the. You're right. I mean, it's just maybe we just need to like slow down, or maybe if they do give these directors another project in the MCU, maybe flesh out some other characters or something instead of necessarily being tied to the property that they were originally with.
I don't know. It's just and maybe I have a bad taste in my mouth because we see this from DC all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it's Marvel doing that, I'm still like, wait, don't don't make promises you can't keep. Don't do it.
Yeah. Or the other concern is too, just I know we love these properties and stuff, but I mean, you do have to begin to wonder, will we reach a saturation point where it's just like it becomes repetitive or just too much of
or the multiverse just isn't fun anymore.
Yeah. It's just like, it feels like a cash grab or whatever. And it's just,
And I mean, that leads perfectly into our last bit of news, is that Colin Farrell has officially signed on to star in and executive produce a series spinoff of the Batman in which he would play the Penguin. And yet we still haven't even seen the Batman.
Yeah, and they already have another spinoff based on Gotham PD.
I know. It's ridiculous. All of these spinoffs. It's like, okay, I can see from one angle, maybe it's just all hype. It's all trying to get fans excited for the movie. And I'm like, did he see the numbers that trailer did? I mean, I know Spider-Man No Way Home trailer kicked ass, but the Batman, when that dropped, dear Lord.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't. When one studio does it, it's funny because I love picking on DC and Warner Brothers. But with Disney doing it, I'm like trying to be the older sister. Okay, that's enough. Cut it out.
Stop. Yep.
That's the way they do business. That's not the way we do business. Okay.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Well, and again, and it does, does, I think, back to my point, does it begin to dilute the product if you just put so much out there? I mean, because inevitably, some of these things are going to flop. I mean, it's just, for whatever reason, either creatively, they're just not going to click, or
we've seen it 1,000 times. And he still doesn't understand the way time works.
Exactly.
Get there.
Yeah.
Did I jump the gun on that one? Did I?
Just a little bit. Did
I jump over the well too soon?
That well wasn't even there.
but I think you're spot on, because when we were talking Batwoman this season, with all of the second rate versions of these villains characters that we know about, well, now you're telling me not only are we getting the Batman in March with the Penguin, Catwoman, and some other villain that I can't think of Riddler, but we also got the show going on with all those second rate villains, and now we're gonna have a spin-off series with the Penguin, and it's just like, okay, Batman overload.
Yeah. Yep.
And
exactly.
And it makes it harder because we get what they're trying to do on Batwoman, but they're drenching it so much in the lore that it is oversaturation, because we're already getting that lore in so many other places.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Blue Beetle. Finally somebody different.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they allow him to shine. I mean, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
All right. So on that note, we can figure out how time works finally and talk about the Flash. Okay, so.
So I've been looking forward to this week to talking about the Flash.
Oh, I don't know why, because you have to talk about it with me, and you know how over this I am. So here's my thing. I'm just gonna spew my guts out here. I was very confused because I know everybody got hyped at the end of the last episode when he goes into the future.
Yeah.
But then it turns out he kind of didn't necessarily go into the future. He kind of went into an alternate version of the future because Thawne had also done something in the past and created a reverse flashpoint.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, which is better. Yeah, which is better than the Savitar flashpoint.
Sure, Will. Sure, it was. I know you're over the Flash, but I gotta say, this week, for the first time in a very long time, I was actually excited to watch the show again, because I think with Armageddon, minus the, I'll get to the issues I have, but I think you even put it on the rundown. I want to start off positive with this show this week. So having the reverse flashpoint, having the true, like, flip the script,
yes, not only did I like change everything, including me being struck by lightning, I actually finished the job that I intended to do that night to begin with, which was to kill you. And 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 so having all the story beats, having the showing the menace of Wells, of Thawne, because I didn't mention Harrison Wells. Sorry, I did it. They programmed it into me so much, calling Thawne Wells. I did it by mistake, but Thawne doing creating the reverse flashpoint, and Barry, Storm coming into the reception dinner, and like showing, I'm gonna show, I'm the Flash, and let me prove it to you. And when the suit comes out, and it's the new Reverse Flash costume and stuff, and Barry becoming that character, and then having Barry having to play the role of the Reverse Flash to get Damien Dark to trust him, and it was fresh, it was exciting, it was some really great things that they did to really show what the true Armageddon really was here, and and it wasn't Barry ending this, ending the world, but it was Thawne basically again ripping out the world out from under Barry. And I think, and at its core, I mean, that's what made season 1 work so well, was just like how this character, how Thawne basically manipulated the situation to set up this eternal conflict between Barry and himself.
Yeah, sure.
So. Work with me here. Work with me.
Huh?
I said, work with me here.
Well, I mean, it's just that, to me, I can see everything that you just explained, but it was rushed, honestly. It was rushed, and it was annoying to me that Barry didn't for a second think, I don't know, maybe this person who every season has come in and tried to take me down is behind this craziness. Yeah. It's just that when will Barry learn that lesson? Like, I think the number of times in this episode where I'm just like, Barry, stop being stupid. But he figures it out. There's a speech that ends up saving the world, as par course with every season, as Will likes to point out, every season.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
it was fine.
Yeah. Well, I will agree. I will agree with you that I think they could have just to get to the parts where did fast forward to do the whole Allegra jump thing, and even Ryan Choi, because
it was so unnecessary to have him there.
Yeah, exactly, and I think, to your point, I will agree with you that I think they could have, they should have.
You know what would have made this episode better deeper for me? Now that I'm thinking about it, Will? Because I think all of the parts I didn't like had to do with New Team Flash. I would have liked to have seen the last 3 episodes, like this episode be the penultimate of this whole event, and and us see it played out through Thawne's eyes.
Yes, thank you. That's
so we
exactly
can
what I was
see
thinking.
Everything he did.
Yeah.
And then you have that moment. And then the following week you do the showdown. Like, as a viewer, I think that you would have been more invested in the stakes, as well as the true villainy that is Thawne. Mm-hmm. But right now he's just a joke to me.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a joke who will always lose, because every fucking season he loses. There's no stakes here. Yeah. So I don't know. And especially with some of the things that they were saying that Reverse Flash did, that would have been more interesting. Give Grant more time to play the bad guy and see that more. But to me, it was just like, oh, one episode, boom, boom, boom. Spend all his time with, I'm sorry, Alex, great actress, but I don't think I didn't need that much screen time with Alex in this episode.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know, the best intentions, but, and I'm glad for Flash fans, it seemed to have worked.
Yeah.
But for me, it felt like, again, a lot of the same.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was a lot of the same, but I think the way it was executed, minus the literally the wasted minutes that they did spend on this whole Allegra Chuck side plot. And at real time, I said this, and even today, I still had those like first season vibes as far as why I fell for this show to begin with, and it's just something as a fan of the show, I have been missing, and I just felt like thematically they were getting back to the things that worked well with the conflict between Thawne and Barry that had gotten diluted in some of those intervening seasons. When I think back to like season, I guess 5 or 6, when Thawne was like in Iron Heights and manipulating the first version of Nora.
Season 5.
Yeah, season 5. Yeah, the first version of Nora Allen. I think you're right. I think a lot. Thawne by that point had become, he had been neutered as far as a threat to me. I agree with you, but I think, and I completely agree. That was what you said, that I think if there were some improvements that they could have done to the Armageddon, you're spot on. Really showing how he created this reverse flashpoint.
Yeah. And I mean, he basically turned Barry into Cinderella, which I snickered at. Giving him until the stroke of midnight. I'm like, dude, how many fairy tales do you read? I will give it one thing that they did well, for me at least, was it was very strange for me to actually see Damien Dark work on a show.
Yeah.
Because I don't watch Legends. I know he was on Legends for a while. I understand the ties into Legend, that this whole thing with his daughter and everything. But yeah, he worked more in this one episode than he did all of season 4 of Arrow. So,
yeah,
they did something. Towards the end, it got a little like season 4 Arrow on me, but I understood. They did a good job of having Barry convince him that to help him, and the motivation, like they did that very quickly, and it actually worked because the love of a father, like
yeah.
So, and I think that's what's going on with this whole thing, is that the motivations of these characters continue to get overcomplicated, and when you're able to actually just simplify it, you make the characters stronger because they're more relatable to why they're doing things.
Yeah.
And that's where the conflict should be. And like this thing with Wells, I'm like, I was literally thinking to myself, Will, I was like, do we know why he hates Barry? Like, do we know? Has that ever been revealed? Like the true reason why he hates Barry? Because if so, I have forgotten. Which is not a good thing for a reoccurring villain, because that's prime motivation.
I mean, he wanted to be. He wants that life. I mean, I know there's various reasoning in the comics, depending on which era of the Flash you're looking at. But I mean, at the end of the day, Diabolical Thawne, he wants to have that Barry Allen life and be the Flash, and so he created this reverse flashpoint to be the hero.
Yeah, Can he just like leave Iris out of it though for a little bit, because it was kind of creepy to me. like just in a way of brainwashing a female and essentially like implying a relationship, a sexual relationship. I was just very weirded out by that. This isn't good.
I mean, even beyond the age difference issue, I mean, it was still it was definitely cringe, and I think that, and I guess that's why it worked for me on that level. But not only as a viewer of the show, but also just historically, just from from the comics as well. Just the fact that Eobard Thawne, of all people, has any kind of relations with Iris West. I mean, it's just like, ugh. But but I think, as far as looking forward to next week's episode, of course, to your point, stakes, we know how this is going to end. Thawne will get defeated, but of course it won't be the end, because we do know that later this season, when the show returns in March, Ronnie's going to show up again in some form or fashion, and Eddie Thawne is also going to show up in the show as well. So I feel like, this Armageddon reverse Flashpoint thing is going to, it's going to obviously not. Yes, it was a 5-season event. You had all these other characters coming in, and it was a nice tight thing with Batwoman, and of course, obviously, just confirming what we all know, which is that Ryan and Sophie will eventually get over their issues right now and become a couple. But the things that happen here are going to definitely reverberate through the rest of the season.
It's not that they're going to become a couple. They are married, and Ryan wants to have a child.
Yeah.
So I was just dying to get that teased.
Well, who knows? Maybe now they'll be like, you know what? Well, they'll just drag it out. They, because of what they did on Armageddon, they'll be like, no, now we got to like give them more inks before we can let them get married.
Yeah, don't forget that was 10 years in the future.
Yeah.
10 years in the future, which again, the age difference between Thawne and Iris, like I'm thinking of like that's the whole part of this that really bothered me, was like the whole time I'm like, I get it, it's a reverse Flashpoint, but you're not in present day. You're in 10 years in the future having this play out. Like why 10 years in the, like, it's just, I don't know. There's something about it that just overcomplicated the timeline, and I was just waiting for Loki to show up and save the day, if I'm being honest,
Yeah, I guess they could have just done it a year in advance, a year from now, or present day Barry.
6 months,
6 months,
like,
yeah. I get that.
Like, I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I kind of understand the plot logic where they needed Barry to feel like he had to go into the future, like they needed him to get out of present day, because he couldn't just have been like he woke up one day and everything was different. But then again, that's what the first few episodes felt like. Like that second episode of this whole thing made me think, did I miss an episode?
Yeah. Well, and I may be mixing universes here, but didn't Despero give him like a week to basically solve everything, if I recall?
Yeah. He was given a week to figure out that Thawne was behind it, and he didn't do it in time because Barry never. I don't know what Barry really thinks about Thawne. Have you ever wondered about this? Like, dude, you have an arch nemesis. Why are you thinking about this man more? But then again, Barry thinks every time he kills him, he's dead.
Yes, that's true.
The dude keeps coming back. Well, then again, Barry doesn't kill, so maybe that's part of the problem.
Yes.
Get over your moral. Okay.
drive that, drive that vibrating hand right through the heart.
Yeah. He was gonna do it to Cisco. He's gonna do it to Cisco. Oh man. All right. Well, before I just hate on Will's show anymore, I think we should head over to Hawkeye.
Yeah.
This is a fine episode. This is my thing about Hawkeye. It's a fine show. For whatever reason, though, am I excited to watch the next episode? Not really. Like, they're not doing anything wrong, but there's nothing that is making me curious about how everything is going to play out. Like it is a fine, well-made show. The acting is on point. I have still issues with Haley, but yeah, we'll get there. Even although we might not, because everyone heard about them last week. Yeah. So, but it's just, for whatever reason, I'm not dying to watch the next episode. I'm just more like, okay, all right, moving along. Good deal. We got my girl Florence Pugh now. Thank God.
Yeah.
Very, very good intro. I like that. Except for a few moments, but yeah, it's just there's nothing bad about this show in the way it's being handled. I think the PTSD is on point.
Yeah.
I like, the more people talk about it, the more I start to realize that this show is a reminder that these heroes are real in this world. And we're seeing glimpses of what it would be like to actually run into a superhero at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then like the name drops. So it's just, it's very surreal to see that play out. But it's just there's something missing where I wish I was at a point where I was like dying to see the next episode, and I'm just not.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I'm with you. I really enjoy this series. It's an entertaining hour to sit down and watch. I like one of the things when you were talking about the PTSD. And I was thinking about it as I was making some notes for tonight. One of the through lines I think that these shows post Endgame have all dealt with as a done is how these folks have dealt with grief and loss. Because when you think back to WandaVision, with Wanda, her breakdown over Vision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, how Bucky and Sam dealt with Steve and how they approached it. Loki, his parents, and
I think with Loki, it was the loss of his fate. Like he believed this notion of what he was destined to do and who he was. And in one episode, they completely ripped the rug out from under him, and it was like, no, you don't understand. Yeah. You're just a pawn in this game. Yeah. That's all you are.
Yep.
So it was more about not necessarily the grief of his parents, but more of the grief of that loss of identity.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. And because he obviously wasn't made his way out of the game, but also in a loss of identity, loss of himself, because he saw his future.
Yeah.
And and then what if we deal with Stephen Strange's loss?
Yeah. Oh. And when you bring up grief, though, the episode of What If that I think about, and I know the scene, it's still that zombie episode. And when Peter Parker talks about, has this speech about being optimistic, and it just dawned on me in that moment of watching that on screen of like, yeah, this is why a lot of us gravitate to him as a character, because he has lost so much throughout his life, yet he retains this optimism of that's heroic in a sense. And I think that's going to play very much into No Way Home.
Yep.
And so, and I think you're right. I think throughout all of this Marvel content we've had this past year, they've done a very good job of having these same themes, but because the characters and the relationships are different, we're able to see different perspectives on each theme. Yes,
totally. And I think so I think in this episode of, I mean, we've seen it touched on throughout Hawkeye so far. With, we saw it like, whenever Clint was watching Rogers the musical and how they portrayed Natasha on stage, he just like, okay, I'm done, gotta get out. Because she was kind of a spoof of her, of the Natasha he knew. And as we've gone through the series, but this episode in particular, and whenever he is having that moment with Kate and talking about the best shot that he hasn't, the shot that he didn't take. And we do get to those flashbacks of the time on Vormir and his, and to your, as you rightly noted, the PTSD of dealing with that, and also the conversations as far as like how people dealt with things that happened after the two blips.
Right.
That to me this has been my favorite episode of this series to date, because this was the moment where, in all these series we've had those episodes where I feel like, okay, now I'm ready. Now next week I am actually looking forward to like seeing the next episode, because up to this point I was like, oh yeah, it's Hawkeye. Felt like, I enjoyed the series, but it was also felt like almost like I don't want to, maybe obligation television, because I like this genre and I'm going to follow it, but like you said, it wasn't like, ooh gosh, I gotta like I can't wait till Wednesday to watch this. And I remember thinking back now to WandaVision, at least until I had that evolution as well. And so for me, this was the episode now that has gotten me to that point where I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see what happens next week, because of the things that they have. Obviously, Yelena showing up. I mean, clearly, you're going to see what happens there. But I think it's the character beats with how Clint talking about his loss and dealing with Natasha, and how that impacted Kate, and what we saw, what happened, transpired on the roof whenever she was fighting Echo and Yelena, and not taking that shot, and of course all the other Flash, all the callbacks to Endgame with Vormir and the music and all stuff. Yeah, but yeah, so I think that's
I thought that moment was a bit forced.
It was
really like the moment when Kate is falling, and it was very reminiscent of Natasha falling and the last time he saw her alive.
Yeah.
So I like that, but then to add on top of that, the shot not taken, I'm replaying that scene in my mind, and I'm thinking like, Yelena doesn't really have that look like she wants out.
No, she doesn't.
And that's not what's really going on. And maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because we never actually saw him not take that shot. We were just told about it. And so then you try to have that occur at the end when we know why Yelena's there. it just felt forced to me, where I'm like, you didn't really need to do that. Like, Yelena could have dodged a bullet. Okay, we just saw her handle herself.
Yeah.
Girl's got game, but
yeah. She
I
even
don't know.
Yeah, she even adopted this superhero Natasha Landing.
Oh, absolutely. You best believe she was making fun of her after all. But I did appreciate how, because for a moment I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. Clint wouldn't know. Because they did a very good job of moving Yelena into the storyline,
Mm-hmm.
the characters not realizing why she was there, and it's orchestrated in a way where they're left to believe like, oh, she was clearly hired, and in a way she was. Like, we don't know who Kate's mom called, but she could have called Elaine.
Yeah.
Could have been.
I think that's probably who she did, because I think Kate's mom knows that Clint's Ronin.
Well, no. Remember, she said on the phone, we got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
There's something about this case that they don't want them looking into.
That's true.
So I don't, which is stupid to me. Like, it's obvious to Kate who Ronan was. Like, is anybody else paying attention around here? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and just one more point about Yelena is, it's funny because you were talking about grief, and actually both Echo and Yelena too. Like, all four of those characters, whether it be Kate, Yelena, Echo, or Clint, have all lost someone. And that is why they are in this circumstance. Because Kate lost her father, Echo lost her father, Yelena lost her sister, and Clint lost Natasha.
Yeah.
And so they've orchestrated it to where they're all blaming each other, blaming Hawkeye essentially. But the reality is that there are other people pulling the strings. So I like a lot of the dramatic irony in that fight. But I think some of the things were just a bit forced.
Yeah, they were. I mean, and they're trying to obviously, the parallels in the callbacks definitely were forced. I mean, there's no getting around it. But I think, to your point, the way they staged the dramatic irony of all four of these people blaming someone else, thinking someone else is responsible for XYZ, does set up some good dramatic stakes moving forward. And especially, I mean, I do think, because the only reason why I think Eleanor might be tied to maybe have an inkling or a thought that maybe Ronan is Clint, is because I think she didn't want to play her hand, when she had this conversation with him about sending your kid in to a dangerous situation. He's like telling, stay away, face, would you do that? And so I just wonder if she is like, because they're all tied to King. Basically, I think she's tied to the underworld maybe in some way, but also I think Clint. I mean, and of course, Kingpin is out there pulling the strings as well. And I think I don't know if he's going to show up in this series. I think he'll probably more likely. I mean, it's possible we'll get another glimpse, but it's more likely he's going to be a central figure in Echo, whether it's the Netflix version of Kingpin or the MCU version of Kingpin. But Kingpin's going to show up. Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be in this series, some way, one way or another. So, and then when I think back to the Rolex and who could it be that whose Rolex it is, and then I've seen some people theorizing Tony Stark. Well, no, it's not Tony. The people I think of is either Laura Barton's watch, Nick Fury's watch, or maybe Natasha's, because those are only the three people who because the fact that Clint had a family was a very closely held secret. So it's only three of those people And obviously now Echo has figured it out. So someone tied to the underworld, whether it's Kingpin or maybe Eleanor, because in the comics, apparently, I was reading about this. Eleanor is, I think, Madame Mask, and apparently she was a underworld figure, villain, I think, in the Marvel comic book lore. Mm-hmm. So and clearly, Ronan was taking out all the people in the underworld. So, that's where I'm just trying to find those connections between that and then working their way back to, with this watch. I got shades of like Pulp Fiction there with this gold watch. But in this case, the Rolex, tying that back to, try to track down Martin's family so that, they get some leverage over him. And when you think about the people, and when they say it's going to blow a lot of things up and hurt, this particular secret, I mean, only people, we know how Nick Fury loves to keep secrets. So I'm thinking, well, it could be Nick, could be Laura, or it could be Natasha.
So the watch only has Clint information about Clint's family in it?
No, I think, yeah. Or, well, the person who held the watch knows things about Clint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, technically all of the Avengers knew. Whoever was in Avengers 2.
No, but they only knew
what? This isn't really a job for us, Will, because there are some insane people online who I'm sure am going through frame by frame of Endgame right now, seeing who's wearing a watch.
No, but here's the thing. The thing is, none of the other Avengers, only Natasha and Nick knew that prior to Ultron that Clint had a family.
Yeah. So when was the watch lost?
Well, that's the
I thought it was lost. I thought they said it was lost during Endgame, like it was found in the rubbish.
It was, but it was an Avengers compound in the rubbish. But one of the other Avengers.
Will, do not try to reverse flashpoint me right now, okay? I can't take it.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to think of whose watch it could be, and I think the three candidates are either Nick, Natasha's, or Laura Barton.
Okay. I am going to laugh if it's none of them.
Yeah, and it probably is none of them. It's probably Steve Rogers.
The one that you keep throwing out to me, and I'm like, that's coming out of left field. How would Laura's watch get into that compound? And also, it looked like a very masculine watch. I'm just like, how is it Laura's watch? It could have
been her father's or something.
You're confusing me, but stupid watch, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I know it's not Tony Stark's. I don't think it's Tony's.
Yeah, it could be Bruce's.
Yeah, it could be Bruce, I guess it's like keep it in the Avengers compound so when I Hulk out, my Rolex doesn't get lost.
I mean, there were a lot of people at Avengers compound during that final thing, so there could have been a lot of watches, but Nick Fury seems like the most logical point at this point. If it's Laura Barton's, I'm gonna be like, damn it, Will. How did you figure that out?
Well, she knows.
Right.
Because obviously she knows that Clint was Ronin. Yeah, so.
Okay.
She knew. Laura knows about his time, how he dealt with things during the blip. So, that's why I think it's possible that she's aware of it, and that maybe it was Clint's, and he just kept it there at the compound.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been Clint's, but I don't know. And before Will creates like 5 other MCU timelines, I think we're gonna head out of here because my brain can't take it. And on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJBelmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.